Since 2014, there has been an uprising of conservative politics in the gaming community. Things that used to just be considered cringe tendencies of gamers, like freaking out when a girl is in the lobby and being a bit cringe about it, went from being just a tendency of typically loser incel type guys that played a lot of video games to like a cultural mark of being a gamer. You know, bullying women and minorities, saying slurs in online games, that kind of thing. Quickly became sort of a cultural touchstone of the gaming community as a whole, and has been for years now. And with the rise of this like anti-woke gaming sphere blowing up in recent years, you would think, or you would be right to assume, I should say, that many gamers voted for Trump. No doubt under the impression that Donald Trump's policies are going to help fight against wokeness, or even that it was just a single issue vote for the economy. Here's the thing, though. Gamers are serious about gaming, okay? Like, just the idea of graphics cards or consoles getting to be like 20% more expensive is like a nightmare scenario that will make gamers wake up in a cold sweat late in the night and need to like go for a drink of water to dry themselves off with a towel. You know, it's like, dude, that shit is terrifying. Well, if you're a gamer, I have bad news for you. You should be terrified. Donald Trump won. And it doesn't matter if you think Donald Trump, if you bought what Donald Trump sold you. It doesn't matter if you bought what he told you, if you believe him. Your wallet and the economy doesn't need to believe or disbelieve him to have what is about to happen to it go down. Companies are coming out and saying to expect massive price hikes in game prices, particularly ones that come from overseas. A good example being a Chinese game that is quite popular right now called Black Myth Wukong. As a Chinese import, that game will be tariffed. But not on China. The company that made the game won't be tariffed. The retailers will be. So when you try to buy Black Myth Wukong off of Steam or the Epic Games Store, because they have to pay a tax on the sales, they're going to charge you more to make up that money. You're going to end up paying that tax. Maybe not all of it, but probably most of it. And so, yeah, it's your wallet, Trump's choice. And so it doesn't matter whether or not you believe this. You don't have to believe me. I don't care whether or not you believe me. You're going to feel it, and you're going to be upset about it. And then when you find out I was right, you're going to start flocking to my and other content creators like me's videos who are talking about the issue and complaining about it, and who predicted it was going to happen months beforehand because we actually read this guy's policies and listened to what he said he was going to do beforehand. But hey, now it's time. We did the fucking around, now it's time to find out. So I've got a video here from a smaller creator named TTBN Gaming called Project 2025 is bad for video games and gamers. It just came out. It's only a day old, but it seems like a really good video. And I think it'll do a good job of breaking down the situation. So let's go ahead and hop in and give it a watch. I'm not going to edge you guys any further. Let's just start it.
It's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash day friend's favorite content creator. And you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. I don't think at this point it's too much of a stretch to say that I am not afraid to talk about politics on a gaming channel because, and I will always state this, politics is tied to everything that we do. And things are going to get more and more and more politicized as these next 4 years go by because of who's currently in charge. And I know this is going to
Completely true. Nothing is separate from politics besides maybe a picture of like a leaf sitting on a sidewalk, but even then you could have a conversation about how well managed the sidewalk is and how this must mean the location it was taken in has good funding for their infrastructure. But like for the most part, yeah, just about everything has some relevance to politics and exists in the context of a political landscape, right? This has a massive effect on games even. Games have been around long enough now that games with stories are influenced by their time and have aged out of their time, if you know what I mean, right? A good example being older Call of Duty games that were meant to depict what were at the time modern wars, or like the way that modern wars are fought. Like you can go back and play Modern Warfare 2. The shit they're using in those games is not the same as the shit you're using in a modern war, on like the current Modern Warfare game. Like there's a lot of, they go a little sci-fi techy with it, I think now Call of Duty does, but like, you know, even in gaming stuff, you can see that like tech, like the cultural implications of the game, the inspirations of it, references in it. They're based on the time it exists in. And that's all politics.
Route people the wrong way, but this has to do with video games explicitly. Project 2025 is sort of like the, let's just say, playbook that the administration is going to be adopting, right? So things like budget cuts, creating the Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE.
Elon Musk will be creating a department in the US government called the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. Doge. Yes, this is not a meme. It is fully confirmed. It is real.
For Elon Musk to play around with. Like, all those stuff is going to be happening. In fact, he's already picking cabinet members and all this thing too. But I don't think a lot of people are understanding how this affects the video game industry. Because make no mistake, this shit will affect the video game industry. So without any more like preamble, I kind of want to just like start with it. And what I'm reading from, it's from Game Developer, GameDeveloper.com. It's pretty much like an insider look at like game development. So a pretty reliable website. And they have an opinion piece talking about how Project 2025 will impact gamers. Again, you guys can go to the link for yourself to really get your own sense of like the scope of things. I'm going to kind of interpret it in my own way, like I normally do. But here we go. So starting off with one reason why I think you guys should be really, really, really aware of Project 2025 as so far as gaming is because Project 2025 goes after the transgender ideology. And I already know, like I said, for some people, they're like, why do I care? Why do I care? What does it matter?
I'm going to guess the definition of the transgender ideology is going to be fucking broad. So take, for example, who here likes Terraria? You know the gender change potion in Terraria? That might be counted. Like, being able to make a potion in Terraria that lets you change your gender, because, like, sometimes people on the character creation screen will accidentally make a female character, because you customize your character's sprite model, and you can forget to select male instead of female, and then when you get hit, you realize you go, ew, when you take damage instead of, ooh, you know? And it's like, well, shit. Now I need to go out and collect herbs to make a gender change potion so I can be a man. And you don't look any different, you just become a man. You start going, ooh, when you get hit instead of, ooh, when you take damage. That's my best impression of the damage noises in Terraria, by the way. Another good example would be gender changes in MMOs. Like, if you can, like, get a service to change the gender of your player character in an MMO, would that count? What about in stories that, like, depict those characters? Why should that be banned? The free speech crowd was never fighting for free speech. They understood it was a popular idea, and bad people are completely fine to lie and pretend to hold popular ideas in order to get good people on board with bad ideologies. And that is what happened. That is what happened. They used rhetoric that sounded amazing, that we're fighting for free speech and expression, yada, yada, yada. You know, like, everybody should have a place at the table for discussion and debate. They say all that, but they actually fight to silence and control any platform, lefties, and control any platform that they exist on, like with Twitter.
It matters because this relates to character creation. Did you like the character creator in Baldur's Gate 3?
Oh, yeah.
Cyberpunk, where you could be literally whatever you wanted? If they are adapting Project 2025, which they most likely will, say bye-bye to having, you know, that level of customization, because they want to get rid of transgender ideology, which isn't a thing, no matter the consequence. So you're playing as just one type of person in these video games, where again, you can create whoever you wanted, and it's just the option. Same thing with Baldur's Gate, it's the option. And of course with Dragon Age Veilguard, it's the option. That option is being taken away from players. And I think we can agree.
To be fair, this is what the anti-woke crowd has celebrated. Half the time when they complain about something, it's not even it's optional stuff, right? Like, how often have you seen conservatives complaining about, like, optional gay sex scenes in games that allow you to choose your own romantic partners? It's like, why are you complaining about an optional sex scene? Just don't do it. Just don't fuck the character, you know? Or fucking pronouns in the character creation screen of Starfield, right? Like, they're mad about player choice existing when they disagree with the choice. And yet they also virtue signal about how they're fighting to preserve the rights of expression and speech for those that they don't even agree with. Because the rhetoric is meant to appeal to populism. The behavior is just meant to further their ideology.
That we don't like it when our options are limited, especially in RPGs. We love the chance to be able to create our own characters and make our own little headcanon and stories and like their background and all that stuff. That's part of the role-playing experience. And now they're telling you as gamers, you're not going to be able to do that because that's part of their far-reaching anti-trans rhetoric and laws that they want to pass. So
That
again,
Muscle Man video is great.
just off rip, you're going to be losing out on character creation and also potentially just other characters. Like in Apex Legends, you have like Bloodhound and Catalyst. You have trans characters in these kinds of games. If trans people aren't allowed to exist under this administration.
Clove in Valorant is non-binary. So Clove would either be banned from the game or they'd have to change their lore so they're not non-binary anymore, I guess.
Now, what does that mean for trans characters people have grown to love? What about future characters people want to make and now they can't? Why? Because the government doesn't like it? If you guys saw my other video, which a lot of you guys did, thank you so much, about how the right dominates in gaming, especially in discourse, you'll see that the government has tried to overreach in game before in terms of like trying to censor it, which is why the ESRB was kind of made in
Or League of Legends, the most popular game, the most played game in the world, League of Legends, which has like a good handful of gay champions. Like a very good handful, literally a TV show, or I guess a streaming show on TV right now, or on streaming right now that's very popular about 2 of those characters who are gay, maybe more. I know that I've got some friends that are hard headcanoning Jason Victor as a gay couple. I don't think it's real, but boy, do they want it to be real.
first place to sort of like placate them to make sure they don't like fully start to like control it. But if you look at other countries where the government does have control of what games can and cannot be released there, it's insane. You have countries where like Mortal Kombat can't be released, just cannot be. Spider-Man games, Spider-Man.
This is not an unusual thing. Russia, Saudi Arabia, these are all countries that are like pretty modern. Like they're countries that where the population is on the internet. They make YouTube videos, they play online games, and they are banned from playing these games because of the content in them and what their government says isn't allowed. If you think that the government can't just say, oh, you're not allowed to have this type of content anymore, it's banned in our country now. If you think America can't do that, you're very mistaken. Not only can they do that, but even if there were roadblocks in Trump's way, there aren't anymore. The Republicans won every branch of government. They won everything: the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, Congress, and the presidency. There's no one to stop the Republicans if they want to push for some shit like this. There are no checks and balances anymore.
1 and 2, because it has a pride flag, can't be released, I believe, like Saudi Arabia. Just a whole game, the government says can't have it. That's government interference in art, in gaming. That fucking sucks. So that's my first point. And if that's not enough for you, maybe you are more so caring about like the actual life and condition of people making the games. If that's the case, people working on the games might face even more inequality because civil rights protections for American game developers in the workplace might suffer. Essentially, under Project 2025, they are going to be pulling back on protections. They are going to kind of cut the departments that would make sure that people aren't being.
This is actually a popular, like a decision among a lot of conservatives. They've argued to get rid of this for a while. But in America, there are protections for certain groups of people that say you cannot discriminate in certain ways against those groups, right? For example, race is a protected class. And what this means is that, let's say someone comes in and they want to, like, you own a business, right? Doesn't matter what the business is, but you own a business. And a potential customer walks in, and regardless of what their race is, it can even be a white person, you don't like their race, and you argue, no, sorry, only non-white people are allowed to have to eat at this establishment. That's illegal. Because race is a protected class, not non-white people, but race. You are not allowed to discriminate based on race. Regardless of what the race is, you cannot discriminate based on that category. You cannot say, no, this hospital will not service you because you are black or because you are white. You cannot say, no, this restaurant will not serve you water on a hot day because you are black or you are white. A business cannot say, I will not hire you because you are a woman, for example. conservatives hate these rules is an example of what they call affirmative action, or DEI, is when it is illegal to refuse to hire on the basis of race or gender. And so, yeah, this is part of what they're fighting against, what they call DEI, affirmative action, etc. There are actual affirmative action policies. They don't even use that term anymore because it requires knowing what affirmative action is. Instead, they just call it DEI, which is an empty term. It means nothing. The more that the right can talk about nothing while sounding like they're talking about something, the better for them. And so it's gotten to the point now where a lot of right-wing rhetoric is so disconnected from reality or any genuine, like, words that mean anything. It's so vibes-based that it's at times hard to argue against. What am I supposed to just, like, vibe against them or something? Tyler Volantis, thank you for the 10 Canadian dollars super chat. Says, hey, could you react to the new Captain America trailer? It's about a red monster that becomes president of the USA and a black Captain America saves the day. I mean, symbolism, anyone? I don't know. I think it's... I don't know if it's that legit. But I have watched the trailer. It looks all right. Thank you for the $10, though. I appreciate it.
Being either covertly or overtly discriminated in the workplace. So like by race, sex, religious background, all those things, right? And if that's the case and it's gone, then there can be just rampant discrimination happening. And how does that affect people? I mean, I don't think I have to explain that, but I will. Discrimination is bad.
True.
Do you guys remember what happened at Ubisoft or at Blizzard when people were being sexually harassed? When and Riot 2, and like I said before, at Ubisoft, sexual harassment, a boys club, like all that stuff led to people feeling unsafe in the workplace. Unsafe people create bad product because they're focusing on their safety, they're focusing on their work. And I do not know if you guys have ever been in a work environment that's really hostile or just a really hostile environment. You aren't focusing on making the best product because you are concerned with your own safety, your own mental health, your physical space.
It's wild to me how gamers will simultaneously make big bandwagoning movements against a studio when there is a scandal having to do with the way they treat their workers. Blizzard, for example, like people boycott Blizzard, sort of announcing how morally righteous they are, that they won't ever buy Blizzard again, even though Blizzard fired the people that were doing the abuse, and the people left there that you're boycotting are the ones that were getting abused or getting fucked with by the bad actors. But okay. But then simultaneously, while the gaming community will virtue signal about how bad a company is for allowing that kind of behavior, like breast milk drinking or whatever the fuck was happening at Blizzard, and like the cube crawls, they will simultaneously shit talk and call for the firing of and harass people who work on games, from the voice actress, or usually voice actresses, to voice performers and mocap performers, to the developers and writers. They will blame them for every perceived slight, especially if politically motivated from the right, like woke devs or whatever, and they will attack them, arguing that these woke devs need to be purged from the industry and fired, while also virtue signaling about how they're so pro game developer because they're boycotting the companies that pay their workers based on how well the thing they worked on does. Like, yeah. Gamers fundamentally don't understand what is best for them and will actively fight against their own best interests. Yeah. It also, like, gamers are not a smart group of people, okay? They just are not. Like, gamers as a whole are not a smart demographic. There are smart gamers, don't get me wrong, but gamers, TM, are not smart.
Imagine, if you will, you are working at your job, and at the office, everyone hates you. Like, actively hates you. And there is no protection for you. But it's your job. And you can't just quit because, especially in this economy, especially if you're in the game side of this economy, there aren't many studios hiring. And you're one of the lucky few who still have a job. But now, on top of the stress of being a developer, now you have to deal with the fact that, like, you're a woman and your boss is making passes at you. Or you are a minority of some kind and people are making comments about you, calling you slurs and all that stuff too. And they're just allowed to do that because there's no regulatory body anymore that's going to look into that. There's no protection. You can be openly discriminated against. And for all you guys who feel like, white guys are being discriminated against, now a company could, in fact, be like, we're not going to promote any.
Now they can. If you think white people were discriminated against before, Trump is going to make it technically legal for a business to say blacks only. No white people allowed, no Asians allowed, no one's who's Hispanic allowed. Only black people can come to this business. That is going to piss off conservatives so much because that'll technically be legal. I don't know how the Republicans will handle that. They'll probably try to like add an exception just for white people or something into the law. But if that will be fully legal. That'll be fully legal if Trump goes through with this, because he wants to eliminate discrimination laws. And those discrimination laws are very broad. They just describe gender and race as the categories. You can't discriminate against men. You can't discriminate against white people. You can't discriminate against straight people. Just as much as you can't discriminate against gay people, black people, women under these laws. They don't just protect marginalized groups. They just protect against that discrimination and make it such that you can go into the world and go into a business and not have to worry about whether or not you're allowed there based on who you were born as. The idea that you're just able to freely explore and go places in America, and as long as you're not fucking things up and causing issues, then you can just go into a business and buy a bagel. You don't have to worry about being a man or a woman or white or black or whatever, because they're not going to deny you service based on your identity, because it's illegal. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. And they would argue, a lot of conservatives argue, that many businesses would choose not to discriminate because they don't want to lose out on money. Then again, what about the wedding cake guy that refused to make the gay cake? What if every bakery in an entire state is owned by homophobic people because it's in a red state? Can gay couples just not get a wedding cake made for them? Some conservatives say, yes, this is what we want. We want gay people disenfranchised. But most of them would say, no, that's not what we're looking for. No, that's not what we're trying to make happen. Do you really think that's what would go down? They try to sanity wash such an insane policy.
Any white people, and there'd be no recourse because they would gut that program. They would not have the funds to investigate those claims. And so while people might think that this is only going to affect one group of people, me personally, I think if it affects one group, it's going to affect everyone. So I think it's bad either way. But it will not just affect one group of people. It's going to affect a whole slew of people. And with that comes instability. Instability in an already unstable market like game development.
Yeah.
So that's my second point. That's why we should really care about that. On top of if going further with this, going further with this, right? People having access to healthcare. If you don't have access to certain healthcare, you might be in danger. And now you still have to work. Oh, they got rid of the Obamacare, which is the Affordable Health Care Act, right? If they get rid of that.
Oh, man. Have you seen the conservatives finding out what the ACA is? Because a lot of conservatives are, as it turns out, very in favor of the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA. But what they're very against is Obamacare. And so Trump running on destroying Obamacare, they don't realize that the ACA is Obamacare. Obamacare is just a word conservatives labeled the ACA with as a derisive insult. Like, yeah, the ACA, that's Obamacare. That's just Obama trying to look good. Like, they played it off as a bad thing for Obama to provide health care via executive action to shitloads of Americans. And it's a super popular policy, but the Republican voters who like the policy still buy the propaganda because they don't call it the Affordable Care Act even. They call it Obamacare. And a surprising amount of people voted thinking that Trump's going to destroy Obamacare and protect the ACA. Genuinely hilarious. We point and we laugh at these people. We do nothing but point and laugh at them and tell them if they don't want to be cucks anymore, they can vote blue.
You might be fucked. Are you really going to be able to work on a game? Are you really going to work on a game when you have a disease or a sickness that your insurance is helping you manage and now it's gone? That's what I'm talking about. There's so many things that overlap here that people aren't really thinking about. And I want you guys to kind of just think about that. It's not good for gaming, especially because this might lead to more crunch. And if you have any interest in game development or just video games as a whole, there's no way you haven't heard of crunch. If you're watching this video, you have definitely heard.
Once again, gamers will rally against the studio when it comes out that their developers had to do crunch time, but they will also attack developers for any perceived slight. That's obviously the fault of the publisher or the CEO of the publishing company, but they'll always blame the devs.
Heard of crunch. But for those of you who might be your first time seeing me, hi, thank you. Crunch is essentially forcing workers to work insane amount of hours over a short period of time, or a relatively short period of time. So if you work 40 hours a week, imagine working double that. Not going home, spending nights in your office, shit like that. That is crunch. And now what's happening is they might be able to abuse crunch, because one of the proposals in Project 2025 attacks overtime benefits from multiple angles. In the chapter of Department of Labor, Bay argues that overtime laws are too restrictive on companies who wish to offer other benefits like reimbursement for education, childcare, or free meals. As he states, quote, overtime requirements may discourage employers from offering certain fringe benefits such as reimbursement for education, childcare, or even free meals, because the benefit value may be included in regular rate that must be paid at 150% rate over all overtime hours. So essentially, they want to be able to get rid of this overtime stuff, but still make you work harder, and they can repay you in other ways. So instead of paying you actual money that you would need, they're like, oh, hey, we'll offer you free meals. And it's like, okay, cool, but like that might not be the best outcome if I'm literally working twice as much and getting paid the same rate. And
well, tons of game developers live in LA where every single penny matters, you know? Like, or live in a big city where a cost of living is so high that every little penny matters, and any cut to your cost or to your pay is going to be a massive hit to your quality of life. So, to be very clear, not all these things will likely end up happening. Trump's going to have a lot of mud in his path that he's going to have to trudge through to fulfill Project 2025, and a lot of Project 2025 might not even be on his docket. Yes, it was made by members of his administration, and he is involved with it, but there are probably things on there that he doesn't even plan on going through with. Or, more likely, are plans his constituents have that he doesn't plan to stop. And I think something worth remembering is that Trump is an egomaniac who does want the people to love him. And to some extent, I wonder if Trump might be bullied into managing the country at a bare minimum of efficiency, simply because the voters that he needs to keep pleased might turn on him. Or maybe they won't. We'll have to see. If his supporters feel like they've lied to him enough and he notices a real drop in support and ego inflation, he might change up his act. I don't even know what Trump would do to try and regain the respect of his own followers if he actually lost it. Like, could you, like, imagine how desperate he would be? It's a genuine question. Like, do you think that, like, Trump blowing up our economy will be enough to lose him the loyalty of a significant amount of his base? Maybe enough to push Trump into acting unusually to try and re-earn their respect? He's so obsessed with being the winner, with being the popular guy, with everyone loving him and talking about him. Oh, dry-ass throat. I'm really curious how he would handle it. Anyway, guys, as a gamer, the future of America terrifies me. And I hope that if you're a gamer watching this, you realize now why it was so important to have voted for Harris, if you did, or didn't, or couldn't, why it was so important. I hope you know why if you go back to this video in the future to find out, like, what happened to gaming. Well, we saw it coming, and we tried to warn you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel a lot, as it does also help my live streams when you hit the like button. It's like casting a blue ballot for YouTube to push my content in the algorithm to more new viewers every time you hit that thumbs up. Same goes for commenting when this comes out as a video. Oh. There we go. God, I hate having dry throat when I'm talking. Also, please consider following my social medias linked down below. If you want to see more from me on other platforms, especially joining my fan Discord where I host gaming events at least once a week. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And finally, if you want to support me directly, help me be able to afford to keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, gifting a sub, or buying merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support the channel, though, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope to see you again.